Hey gang, we are at the iconic Mount Carmel Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, just west of Chicago downtown. It's July 31st, a Thursday. And yeah, we've been here many times. I've shot over 20 episodes here, from the first being Al Capone, right, and the gangsters, to murder victims. But most importantly, we've done just a lot of wanderings and ancestry research here. The pictures, the oval pictures that we all love, the porcelain pictures from the 1800s and early 1900s. This is the Mecca. Again, Italian cemeteries, you'll find Eastern Bloc, Polish, Lithuanian. Those are where you're going to typically find these amazing porcelain images that last and endure the test of time, well over 100 years, many of these. And we're going to focus close on some of them, well, on all of them that we can find, because the detail of the photographs that have endured are just microscopically amazing. You can literally look in the people's eyes, or the children. And speaking of children, a lot of children, as we've talked about before, the diseases before the antibiotics. So you're going to see a lot of young kids. We're going to see some post-mortem. So I came out yesterday and it was pouring rain. I came out to scout, actually, not to film anyway, so I was in my raincoat. We're in section O, and we're off Harrison Avenue on the north side. That's our train. The face of the forgotten train. You got to have it. Thank you. And we're going to also go to section 16, because we're going to end at the grave of a little girl. Her name's Lena, and there's just a beautiful picture of her. It's not very crisp picture, but it's a pretty good picture. Not as crisp as some of these. And she's with her dog. And so I had Deb, shout out to Deb, our ancestry helper, of course, on all of these. So coming down Harrison Avenue scouting, I saw this. I just never noticed this giant statue with this relief, this boy. It looked like a boy. So I took a picture of it, sent it to Deb yesterday. I got a little information and a couple of other graves. Of course, Lena's grave, what we could get, and there's another grave over here. Hopefully I can find it. But let's take a walk over here and I'll tell you a little bit about what Deb had found on Antonio here. So there's a look at the inscription. And interestingly, and this is the first time I've seen it in the United States, these are lead-applied letters to what was inscription that has melted away the marble with the acid rain. So someone, maybe in the 1950s or maybe in the 1920s, well, let's see, yeah, he died in 1915. So it had to be mid-20th century. But when I was in England, I would see this everywhere, and these letters are all pinned in. They have many pins, like every eighth of an inch. And they had drill holes and I guess inserted into the marble, but these typically hold up pretty well. But this is just an amazing sculpture. And look at the detail, the pin in his tie and on his lapel. I don't know if that's a pin or what, but yeah, this young man died at 25 years old. He was a sculptor, and that's probably why they did just, you know, his brethren or his colleagues probably prepared this for him. So, but it's a massive monument. So I'll tell you a little bit about what Deb found, not much. He came to the U.S. in 1910, never married, sculptor by trade, which might explain this ornate monument. Now, he died in the hospital from shock following a spleen operation. Now, the spleen is a fist-size organ, It's in your left abdomen and upper side. And a contributing factor was this pernicious anemia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a disease where you don't have enough red blood cells. And it has all these bad side effects like shortness of breath, feeling faint, a red tongue, pale skin, chest pain, nausea, vomiting, on and on and on, like 20 different ailments. So, rest in peace to Antonio. Rest in peace. So, let's move on. And what we're looking at, of course, is a lot of Italian immigrants. There's Vincenzo, who died in 1914. And this image is pretty clear, but we're going to see some that are much clearer. Is this his mother, Maria? And the 4K cinematic camera I have is really going to pick that up. Let's see here. Child, it looks like here. 2 children. That's the inscription. Now, what I am going to do, aside from what I found out already, is when I finish today, I'm going to put a rough draft of this video up for Deb. And she is going to do research on some of these that we stumble across. And we'll see what I'll when I edit, I'll put those in the captions. And we'll see what we can find. But yeah, a lot of immigrants, guys. And as you look at these pictures, what I think of and what makes it interesting, 1915 death here. Probably, again, the only picture these people had. You know, we're taking a lot of pictures. Oh, look at this is the other one. We've got some information. I'll do the children here. There's 3 children. The Wilson, let's see, Wilson 1914, a Wilson 1917 birth. And many times if a child dies very, very, very early, like a baby, they'll name the next child the same name. If it's the same, you know, the child is the same gender. But look at these pictures. This is what I was talking about. I'll try to get a real close-up here of, I don't know which one is which, but, and you can, you know, if I zoom in, the clarity is just unbelievable. Now that looks like a post-mortem. So we're talking about post-mortems, right? And again, the clarity is just unbelievable. And that one's not so clear. So a little bit about this family. Deb was able to get some information. The last name is Decore or Decore. Not sure the pronunciation in Italian, but these are 3 of 8 children born to Mr. and Mrs. Fred Decore. Between 1912 and 1923, they had twins in 1912, but one died in 1913. Deb could find no cause of death for the 3 here on the monument, but she was guessing that Wilson, who, I think the father, so that would be Wilson Jr. here twice. Wilson, 1917 to 1919, and Mafalda, 1916 to 1919, may have died from the Spanish flu. And right at the dates 1919. When you see 1919 here, you can just better believe that was probably the Spanish flu. Wiped a lot of these people out that are buried here. The other 4 children lived to adulthood, and the last of them passed in 1995. So rest in peace, children. All right, let's wander and see who we can find. At Mount Carmel, again, I will put a link down in the description of the very first episode I did here at Mount Carmel. I think it was 5 years ago. I can't really read, but the camera should pick it up. This young man, and a lot of young people, not just babies. You're going to see a lot of young people. And it's too bad many of these are cracked and many of them are gone, and that's most, when I first started coming here, I was like, man, I was so mad, before I learned a lot of this, and like, somebody came out here and they're throwing rocks or even shoot, it looked like bullet holes. But what it is the lawnmower kicking up rocks. If you think about it, 1930, well, 1930s, 1800s, that's 100 years of lawn, bi-weekly lawn mowings. Interesting, down here it says erected by brothers. Sad, wonder how he died. So 1890, and it looks like 1930s, I guess. Maybe we can find that on Find a Grave, I don't know. And I'm looking for more of the older ones. Here's a couple more children and a young man. And these are not in good shape, but they still are here. And you'll see this one, you see this once in a while, the gold band that surrounds. That was an artistic touch they would do back then. And I can't really read these, but maybe we can, the camera's going to pick it up a lot better, and in editing maybe we can learn some things, but the pictures are in pretty bad shape. This one's not bad. And I really want to do an episode on how they made these porcelains. They used to do it in Chicago, not anymore. They're making them again, but the original, Frank Troost, who has the monument company here, he's the big monument, and we've worked with Frank, he's this big supporter. He said there's a guy in California and he kind of holds the old process. And just like I did a video on the stone carving and the etching at his shop where they do it, we got a tour and saw how they did that. He said in California, you can find that shop. You can do a video on that too. I would love to know how they made these porcelains. Vito. Can't really make out. I think that's a G. 1915. And again, pay close attention as we look at these pictures to the style. Look at the short tie. Look at the pattern on the tie. There's some type of pin, it looks like. And the hat, which is tilted back. The mustache. The style of the times. And you see a lot of these. There used to be a crucifix here or an angel. Angel if it was a child, typically. 1913, 1914. Let's see what else we can. Just kind of meandering here, guys. We'll look at a few more. Conchetta? Bruno. 1932 it looks like to 1914. No, I couldn't. 1882 to 1914. And that's a pretty clear picture of Conchetta. If I'm pronouncing that right, so I apologize. I may not get them all perfect. I do remember saying instead of Vincenzo, and I got corrected, but in a very nice way. So any of you Italian folk, give us the correct pronunciations as we go through, because I'm sure I'm going to get some of them wrong. Try to be good on that. I'm not even going to try, but it says 1915 to 1916. Oh, that's the child that's buried here with this woman. This could be a communion. 1898 to 1915. The flowing headdress there. Here's a man with a bow tie. So we'll go over the inscriptions first here. Michela and Carl. 1952. So this was a picture of him when he was younger. Quite a striking picture, guys. Look at those eyes. And the handlebar mustache, and the bow tie. And he has some type of pin on his lapel there, his right lapel. But it's a beautiful woman, Michela, I believe, in Italian. Am I right? Let me know in comments. Not a great clear picture, but beautiful woman. Let's see what else we can find here. But this is a statue here. Look at this statue. Another man with looks like a bow tie. Yeah, very handsome. Very handsome man. I don't know if we can read that. 1915. In January, it looks like. So the marble is pretty worn away here. Can't really read it. But again, it's just striking, interesting hairstyle, parted in the middle. Let's see. Let's go over this way. I see one with two children. Oh, this looks bridal. Oh, too bad. You cannot even read. Maybe the camera. Yeah, I'm looking at the camera monitor screen, and maybe Deb can make that out. In the unedited version, we can get some information on this woman, who I'm guessing that looks more bridal, but that could be a communion. We'll know by her age. The flowers, imagine those are fresh flowers, roses, right? And they don't look like red roses. They're probably yellow roses, or they could be white. Looks like 1918. We have a birth date, 1896. Italian, Catholic, Catholicism. Well, this is a Catholic cemetery. That's why they're here. There's a couple of babies. Marie and Jenny Cartina. And these do not appear to be post-mortem. 1917, Jenny, and died October, so not even a year old. Oh no, over a year old. And we have Marie, was born January 26, 1911, and she did make it to 1912 to November. So she almost 2 years old, right? Rest in peace. Let's walk this way. Oh, look at this. Turn around and I see 1909, I see 1913. So hopefully Deb can make that out. Not a great picture clarity-wise here, but of the daughter, pretty clear. Some of the photographs are just amazing. All right, let's kind of circle back by the road. It's like an interesting picture here. Not a good picture of Joe Magero, I think it is. Now, one thing you'll notice is these pictures are, some of them, many of them are retouched. You'll see the eyes and the hat, and they would paint right on the glass negative. I think the negatives were glass. And these, kind of like the Radium Girls with the painting, these fine brushes. Look at the eyes. It looks like this was heavily retouched. Is it post-mortem? You'll find that the post-mortem pictures, they're definitely retouched and eyes open when the eyes were really closed. And speaking of post-mortem, I just spotted one here. This is definitely post-mortem John. So let's look at the inscription here. So father and mother. So Mother Christine lived till 1954, and that's why you've got such a clear picture, right? Photography advanced. But her husband, who was, well, 1911, long time before, but that looks to me like post-mortem, guys. Tell me what you think. That does not, that looks like in the coffin. And the eyes were probably retouched open. So that's what I'm talking about. Sad, here's a missing picture, 1869 to 1927. But 1901 to 1918. And if you speak Italian, Genn, what month is that? Oh, is this October, OTT? Be interested to know. Was he 17? Depends on the months. If this is October, it's late in the year, so I'm guessing he did make it to his 17th birthday. But a pretty clear picture of this young man. Let's look over here. It's a handsome young man, Charles Intelli. 1903 to 1926. Look at him. Talk about handsome. Interesting, he's wearing a flannel shirt. Very informal, right? Hairstyle parted to the side. What was his life like as a young man growing up in Chicago? What was his talent? Was he an artist? Was he a craftsman? Was he going to high school to... It's an interesting picture. It's a little unnerving, at least looking at it from here. I don't know. Well, unfortunately, the wind is really picking up. I'm really early here. Usually, oh, it's supposed to be a gusty day. Rosa, too bad the picture, look at that. This one did not make it. Most of the oval porcelains are in good shape, but not that one. I'm heading back to the truck here. Cody's in there, hanging out. 65 degrees, so can leave the windows open, and she's got her dog bone. A couple of sisters, maybe? I don't know. Let's look at the inscription. Angela. Wonder if there's any family. They are somewhere. Come and repair the crucifix that was probably here. It's too bad. All right, guys, we are going to go to section 16 now, and we're going to wrap it up there at Lena's grave. All right, let's go. That, my friends, is Diane Taylor's grave. Diane Taylor, I did an episode on her. She was murdered in 1963. A very sad story. I'll put the link in. And we're going to start off here in section 16 at the Salerno grave. Francesco and Pietro. If you tune in, you can watch my episode, Iconic, I think it was called Iconic Graves. You know, I've been out here, right, so many times. In the rain, in the snow. This one, this is really interesting. I'll put the link in where we came here. Footsteps in the snow. It's too bad the marble is just melting away. This amazing carving sculptor. This was probably done in Italy, and that's from this picture. So we've covered this before, but I'll retrace our steps here in every detail of this picture. And then the boy, brother. So Francesco 1921, and Pietro predeceased 1918. And there's Francesco and Vincenzo. So there was a baby also. I don't think I caught that before, but all right, let's take a walk here. And I'm gonna crisscross, I think, between this row and this row. We're just gonna kind of go like that. And Lena's grave is up that way, so we'll end there. And here right off, a couple of children. Joe and Josephine. And this appears to be a new stone. It probably was a replacement stone with the same porcelains. And I'm sure it was disease. Some by accident, many by disease. Of course, we'll find out. Some of them are just going to be lost to the sands of time. Very casual dress in that picture. Maybe a working man, but even a working man has a nice collared shirt, although unbuttoned, no tie. All right. More children. Another Vincenzo died in 1917, 1 year old, and it's like a sister. So that's Vincenzo. in life. And that's his sister. So sad, so many children lost. You know, I got to imagine when you're a parent in those days, you just expected that half your children are not going to survive. Terrible. This little girl. (1865 to 1917). I guess that would be this picture. And nothing for the child. Or maybe one death was, no, that's a beautiful picture. No, oh boy, more children. So sad. Another child. 1915, Mary died in 1917. And this picture's taking some toll. Maria, 1881 to 1920. Look at the hair. I love the dress, the collar, the pin. Is that a flower? I don't know. You guys tell me. More children here. Yeah, that looks like a young man. 1911 to 1927. Oh, look at that, look at that. In the chair, the book, the shoes, the whole thing. Oh, this is little cutie guy. 1923 to 1927 only. It's like another child here. You see the lamb, that's always a child. And yes, oh, look at that. Little Navy outfit, little sailor boy. Amazing pictures, guys. We're just stepping back in time. Many of these over 100 years old. 1918, I think it's 1912 to 1918. This breaks your heart. Even from here, I can tell you that looks like a post-mortem right here. Yeah, you guys tell me. But from afar, you can just tell by the pose. So let's look at the inscription first. And maybe Deb can find out how she died. But that is a retouched, I'm 100% sure that is a post-mortem picture. Propped up probably. I don't think she's laying down, but I don't know. But look at the eyes. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You guys tell me. Oh, here's an amazing picture. of Giuseppe. Well, let's see, 1875, 1919. Looks like. I wonder what he did for a living. Let's see if I get a side angle, might get a better view. I don't know if looks like I'm getting some glare on that one. Picture's propped up. Here's another amazing picture. Anna Rossi, 1919. Oh, it has to be Spanish flu, guys. Just taken from this world. There's thousands, millions. Just taken. The outbreak. Now I'm looking off where my truck is over there. And that's where Cody's hanging out. But right over there, right there, is the grave of Paddy Murray in the family plot. And I'll put the link up. I did a 2-part episode on Paddy Murray with the Northside Gang. Was killed with Jaime Weiss at Holy Name Cathedral, downtown Chicago. Very famous, and there's pictures of the bodies laying there right on near the steps. And his family contacted me, descendants, and we ended up doing a part 2. I went to Holy Name Cathedral. Look at her necklaces. And the dress, the pattern, interesting pattern on the dress, like a swirl. I think that many times is just as interesting as the person's picture. The face is what they're wearing. And they're all dressed up. You know, in those days, no t-shirts, guys. We're going to the store in a suit. I'm kind of glad I didn't live in those days. I'm not a suit guy. Never was. (1895 to 1927). So he died pretty young. Let's look at the inscription here first. Handsome young man. This picture was probably taken not long before he passed. What did he do? What did he experience? Like this young man, another one. 1882, 1920, so died in midlife. A wonderful smile. I'll bet he was a gregarious, fun guy to be with. TD. TD. Rest in peace. All right, let's zag back this way. Making our way to Lena's grave. Shout out to Cheryl Daggs, who, you know, I knew of the picture from a long time ago, but I was like, I wonder where this is, and she's like, it's Mount Carmel. It's Mount Carmel. Now this is interesting. Here, look at this. Broken glass with some kind of an encasement in the marble monument base, and it looks like there's a key. If you look in the back, it looks like a keyhole. Maybe that's the key to heaven, right? I don't know. Is that a keyhole? Then there's something that's disintegrated here. And at first when I saw it, it looked like bones, but it's probably old flowers or container. But there is a picture surviving. See if we can. Okay, the camera's, I can't really read it, but I can get the information off in editing. That's a pretty good picture of this man with the handlebar mustache. Posing. One died in 1917, Giovannia, and 1969, Michael. And notice the picture, of course, a much older picture. We're going back to the early 20th century, probably when this picture was taken, or the very end of the 19th century. And of course, this was taken much later, and he's much older here, having survived 57, 58 years or so, almost 60 years. Another handsome guy. Handlebar mustache, that was the look, guys. Yeah. Let's see, we miss anything over here? Another young man, 1870 to 1918, so 48 or so years old. April, and he made it to February, so yeah. Sharp looking guy, hair parted down the middle. Let's head over here. Just want to take a quick look. Oh, here's another young man. Can't really read this one. Hopefully the camera can pick it up. For Deb, 1918 I think is the death. Take a quick peek around the corner here. Yeah. There's a couple to look at. Would that be Crescenzo? Guys, my Italian friends, help me out here. Looks like a working man. Deb, can we find anything else? Anything out? I'm betting he was a hard-working man. That would be Michael the Archangel, guys. Talked about Michael at St. Joseph Cemetery. And my exorcist story. And there's the serpent. Yeah, that's the story. I'll put the link in of Brother Felix from Alexian Brothers, one of the priests that's not talked about in the story. A man who I worked for them, my firm, for many years in Itasca. And they were, oh, here's another, Patsy Turco and Teresa, born in 1918, no death date. So many children. So many children. Boy. There's an angel here I see, so gotta be a child there. Yep, sure enough. Get to that, but let's first take a look at this one. 1874 to 1917, so he was fairly young. Very handsome, striking, right? Right out of the movies. So here we have babies. And the pictures are in life. Father, or we have to look at the dates. And of course the angel. Melting away, guys, in acid rain. 100 years from now, it'll just be a lump, maybe 200 years. It's so sad. This is like, you know, these cemeteries, and we talk, you know, that Mini Strong episode I just did, we're talking about what's going to happen to cemeteries. This cemetery, Archdiocese, is going to be around. But gosh, it's too bad there's no way to put a air-conditioned glass dome, or, because I feel like, you know, these are going to be museums someday, 200-300 years from now, or they're going to be plowed over. We talked about that in the Mini Strong episode. I'll put the link in. Put a lot of links in here for this episode. But the biggest link is my playlist at Mount Carmel. I'll put at the top of the description below. Over 20 episodes here over 5 years. Same at Bohemian National. I spent a lot of time there. Antonio, who has a very serious look. All right, let's make our way towards Lena's grave. Look at a couple of more. Couple more. It's another child. This one's going to be hard to read. Brothers. It looks like these two brothers were buried together. Nick and John. Let's see if we can get the dates. I can't see the dates, but I'm hoping the camera, I'll get some different angles for Deb here. So one picture is missing. They may have been twins. And then this is the surviving picture of one of the two boys. And we're coming up on Lena's grave. Just want to look at a couple more pictures here. The inscription. Flowers, fresh flowers. You know, the black and white just doesn't do justice for how beautiful that scene was in her at the time. This one here is a very interesting picture of a man with a beard, but there's no way I'm going to be able to read this. Lost. I'm sure, you know, the cemetery records here, they can, if you really spent time, you could figure out who this was. All right, this is Lena's grave right here. Almost looks like a teardrop. It looks like a sad stone to me. You know, when I say teardrop, I'm talking about this and this, just. But yeah, this is Lena, died in 1915. And what struck me was the picture. Look at that. What a cutie with the, like a sheepdog. What kind of dog is that, guys? Not a golden. It's some type of interesting dog. Yeah, this is Lena's grave. And her father's buried here with her. So let's just take a minute here and talk about Lena. And Deb was able to find some information out about her. And I'll share with you the little that we found. So she was born to Nicolo Caramusa, if that's the correct spelling, and Luisa Alcamo. It's one of those two last names. No birth certificate could be found. She died November 21st or November 23rd in 1915. Records have conflicting dates. We could find no cause of death. Now, Nicolo emigrated from Palermo, Italy, 1903, and according to the census records, he had no formal schooling. He owned a grocery store and later became a fruit inspector. Although the census shows he filed preliminary papers for citizenship, according to the 1950 census, he never became a citizen. Died in 1952, and as I said, he's buried here with Lena. The census from 1930 to 1950 showed the family owned the home at 624 Sangamon Street in Chicago, I believe Chicago, and when I go on Google Earth, that's right under what is now the Ohio feeder ramp, and there's nothing there. That was their home at the time of his death in 1952, and Luisa's death was in 1955. Luisa also had emigrated from Palermo, Italy, a year after Nicolo in 1904. She and Nicolo married in 1908. Now, Luisa had a second-grade education and lived her life as a homemaker. She became a citizen in 1943, a U.S. citizen, and when she died in 1955, she was buried over at St. Joseph Cemetery in River Grove. That's where Babyface Nelson is buried. Lester Gillis, his real name, and of course, Brother Felix, we talked about. He's there. We've done a lot there. And she's buried under her maiden name. So, yeah, that's the story. I really wanted to find Lena's grave. But, you know, you look at these pictures and these graves, and you just wonder, you want to know about their lives, all the details. Were they happy? Did they miss their home countries? How did they work? What kind of jobs? What were their highs? What were their lows? What was Thanksgiving like? What was Christmas like? What was the house? You know, did they live in a big house, a little house, the furniture? What did they eat? On and on. These are the questions I ask myself as I look at these pictures from the past. Most of the stories lost in the sands of time.